What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Last night, Nintendo pushed an update 10.0.2, and it solved an issue that a lot of you were messaging me about. We're going to go over what that was and why it's just a strange thing to see pop up after the 10.0.0 update. And it looks like we're going to see more Assassin's Creed today after it was fully teased and at least unveiled for its title and basically the theme. But keep in mind, this looks like it's going to be the first real big third-party game that we see for next-gen systems as well. And I have to say, based on what we're hearing more and more about from Ubisoft, this looks like it's going to be a massive project and probably the biggest Assassin's Creed game we've seen to date. As always, guys, if you've enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below as we head towards 500,000 subscribers. And we're going to start today with Streets of Rage 4. It's a game that I wasn't initially too excited for. I mean, it was like, okay, cool, Streets of Rage 4, but it had a pretty long build-up, didn't it? But now we're getting closer to release date, that is today. And after seeing some of the reviews, I'm very excited to play it. Now, it's hitting Game Pass today as well, so if you already have Game Pass, you can just go download it. Otherwise, though, you have to pick it up. It's $25, if I'm remembering correctly here when I looked on Steam. But I think I'm going to get it on the Switch, and then, of course, I'll just download it on Game Pass. But reviews started to come out, and from what I saw on Metacritic at the time of this recording, it is an 83. And after going through a lot of the reviews, it seems that some people weren't too excited, that it definitely leaned more into the retro side of Streets of Rage, as in it's like a straight-up beat-em-up style game. But, I mean, that's kind of what I don't know, that's what I was expecting, so okay, that sounds good to me. But the visuals were praised heavily, and the frame rate and the overall feel of the game with the controls. So like that sounds like what I want out of a beat 'em up game, right, from the 90s. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. I'll be grabbing it, playing it today, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it quite a bit on the podcast this Saturday. Also, we got a release date for Bug Fables, and it's a game I don't want anyone to sleep on because I've played it on Steam, and it is pretty much an homage to Paper Mario. Like, straight up. This is the tweet, though, you can see here. It says, the smash hit title Bug Fables, The Everlasting Sapling is on its way to Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. Get ready to explore on May 28th. Now, like I said, I've been playing this on Steam because it released on Steam last year, and I kind of shared thoughts about it on Twitter here and there, but if you really like Paper Mario, I think this is a good one to pick up and play. It has similar mechanics in battles where you have like actions where you pull back on like the joystick and push forward or hit the button at the right time. And yes, it does have that same look and the same art style where it's 2D images and sprites, but I like the kind of the humor to it as well, and you could tell the creators really enjoyed Paper Mario because that's what it feels like. It's available now on Steam if you wanted to grab it there. Doesn't need a lot to play it. Seriously, it runs off of a lower-end PC pretty well. Otherwise, though, towards the end of May, make sure you check it out on any platform. I think it's going to do really well on the Switch, mostly because, again, it looks very similar to Paper Mario. Oh, and one bit of conversation that's been brought up quite a bit is the idea of Game Pass and it being successful. Can Microsoft make this business model work? Well, we did get their financial results, Microsoft overall, and while gaming was pretty much flat, I think overall gaming was down like 1%. Okay, I mean, like I said, it was pretty much flat for Microsoft. They did report, and this surprised me a little bit, Game Pass numbers, as in how many people have signed up for the service and I guess are using it or have used it. The thing we run into here with Game Pass is we don't know how many of these reported numbers are paying $10 a month or how many of them grabbed like the 7-day or 10-day free trial off of like a Snickers bar or cereal or cookies. They were giving Game Pass away with everything, right? Well, you can see here the tweet from Tom Warren says Xbox Game Pass has more than 10 million subscribers, and that's pretty good. I will say that is a really, really good way to run a service like Game Pass, is to collect a ton of people, even if you're giving away the service at first, and keep them on board. Now, we don't have necessarily revenue from Game Pass, so we can't tell how many people are actually paying like the full price for it, but the fact that they have so many people at least accessing the service is, I think, good for Microsoft going forward, because they're trying to transition the overall idea of Microsoft's, their Xbox system to like a service-based thing, and you need users. So at least for now, they're reporting 10 million, and we'll see how that continues to grow. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Assassin's Creed. I liked Assassin's Creed Odyssey when I played that a bit ago. Remember, that was even the game that they put on Project Stream at the time, which was Stadia, when it was in its beta, and that was pretty cool there. But I played it on the Xbox One X when it came out a couple of years ago, and for the most part, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. There was a lot to do kind of in the open world. It did get grindy and tedious at times, but for the most part, I had a lot of fun with it. So, of course, I'm excited now to hear more about what is being called Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And this was an odd way for Ubisoft to kind of show this thing, because what they did originally was they had a stream that went live, and this ended up being like an 8-hour stream total. If you go back and look at the replay on YouTube, it totals like 8 hours and like 4 minutes or something like that. And what the stream was, pretty much all the way through, was an artist actually drawing on the PC and kind of coloring and setting up a really nice piece of artwork for the game. It ended up showing the person in the middle there with the axe, and yes, it appears to be Viking themed, which isn't too surprising since we've been hearing rumors about a Viking themed Assassin's Creed. I'm gonna be very curious to see how stealth works into that even a little bit, but hey, they've been able to do it so far with all kinds of different themes, so I'm sure Ubisoft will be able to make that work here. And it was pretty funny because during that stream, people were of course freaking out. Assassin's Creed, we're gonna find out all about this thing, and before they could even tell us the title, people started to look up website URLs, registries, and we ended up finding out that it was called Assassin's Creed Valhalla before they actually revealed it, but they did tweet it out. You could see that here. And it says, watch the world premiere of Assassin's Creed Valhalla April 30th, 8 a.m. Pacific time. That would be 11 a.m. Eastern time. So, hey, not too much longer, actually. 3 hours, I guess, from now, when this video goes up, you'll be able to check out the trailer. Now, it appears to be a cinematic trailer, which means they're just going to kind of set up the story, maybe introduce characters, and just kind of get us ready to go. There is a current rumor, I believe, and speculation that there will be a cinematic trailer this week, so today, and then next week we'll have gameplay, but there's also been a lot of rumors around possibly having a Microsoft or even a Sony event in May, and it's very possible that Ubisoft will be teaming up with one of them to show off the game, much like they partnered, I believe, with Microsoft back with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Wouldn't shock me to see them show up at like a Microsoft event with this game and have it running on the Xbox Series X, which, by the way, it does appear that Ubisoft had quite a few developers involved in this, because they tweeted this out letting us know that there were 14 other studios, developers that helped co-develop this game. That's pretty ridiculous, first of all, to be able to have the communication to make this all work between 14 different studios, locations, developers. That's something else. But keep in mind, this is most likely going to be a cross-gen game, and right now I'm not ruling out any platform. Like I said, we've seen The Witcher go to the Switch. I'm not even ruling out the Switch right now, okay? I know Ubisoft has not done like Odyssey or anything on the Switch yet, but again, you never know. However, it wouldn't shock me to see Stadia. Like, that could be one that was worked on by one of these developers who helped co-develop it, because they would have had to split up like versions of the game all over the place. A Series X, a PS5. We don't know if there's a lock cart right now. There could be that. The old Xbox One VCR, maybe they want to have the Xbox One S with HDR setup and all of that. The X. You kind of see what I'm getting at. There are a lot of different versions of this game that would have to be optimized and ready to go. But I gotta say, after this was announced, I went ahead and I turned on Assassin's Creed Odyssey on my Xbox One X pretty quickly, because, you know, I'm getting excited. Oh, cool, Assassin's Creed. Let me go ahead and drop Odyssey back on here. And it looks really good on my 4K monitor, so I'm sitting here thinking, what is the Series X and the PS5 version going to look like with the advanced features that they will have installed there? And of course, the SSD that they talked about, possible ray tracing, better CPU, better GPU. It's going to be something else. It's cross-gen, so it probably will be held back at least a bit. Let's be honest here, but it will, of course, most likely be a better running, better looking version of the Xbox One and the PS4 versions of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So either way, I'm excited. This will be our first real look at what Ubisoft has planned for the next generation systems, and hopefully it's not too much longer to see gameplay, but Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Viking-themed Assassin's Creed, I'm excited. Next up, let's talk about this update from Nintendo for the Switch. It is 10.0.2, and Nintendo pushed this update last night, which was really funny because I was gathering information on what appeared to be a problem that a lot of people were running into, more than I would expect, to the point where it was popping up on several forums, it was popping up on Twitter, and people were messaging me quite a bit through email and Twitter about an issue with their Pro Controller that started very, very recently, specifically around the time that we were able to remap buttons with update 10. And what's happened here is there seems to be something wrong with the software at the time, whether it's a bug or just an issue in general with compatibility with Pro Controllers, to where the left or right stick even will start to kind of drift or not accept inputs correctly. I've seen people who are trying to push it up and it wouldn't go all the way up, so your character wouldn't be running, they would kind of be slowly walking, or it was the opposite. You would barely touch it and they would just fly off, forward. So there appeared to be something wrong with how the system was perceiving the control sticks on the Pro Controllers to function. So a lot of people were wondering, well, is my Pro Controller just broken? It wasn't until people started to say, I replaced my Pro Controller, it's still happening, that we started to figure out it was software-based, so people were actually working to resync, recalibrate their controllers with some success. But Nintendo pushed this update, and it does mention stability, but it also mentions one other thing. It says, we have fixed an issue where a Nintendo Switch console with system menu version 10.0.0 or 10.0.1 does not set up a new Nintendo Switch Pro Controller, sometimes causing incorrect joystick control. So there you go, and when I put this out on Twitter, a lot of people were like, oh, I thought it was broken. I thought my Pro Controller was just having issues and I need to get a new one. No, it just appears that there was a problem when they updated to the latest system firmware 10.0 or 10.0.1. It was just a problem seemingly in the update. So go update it now, 10.0.2, maybe recalibrate your controller or even resync it with the button at the top, and then double check to see if the inputs on the left and right sticks are fixed, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everything should be good then. Next up, let's talk about the Borderlands, the Legendary Collection that's coming to the Switch at the end of May, and it's out in like 29 days, but what's crazy is a ton of stuff is coming out on the 29th. It's weird because 2K is dropping like, 3 different games on the 29th. It's a ton of stuff alongside of Xenoblade, and I mean, let's be real, most people are probably gonna pick up Xenoblade. I know I am, although I am interested in seeing how XCOM 2 runs on the Switch. I think that could be kind of interesting. But one thing a lot of us started to notice is that even though 2K is doing physical copies for these games, not all of the games are on the cartridge. In fact, it appears that you will be downloading quite a bit of data to play the full package of games. So let's take a look, for example, here, because this was on Best Buy's website. It is the Borderlands Legendary Collection. It appears you will need, and this is on the site, you can check it yourself, 42 gigabytes of space on your micro SD card in order to download everything but Borderlands Game of the Year, which is on the game card. And this is something we literally just talked about this yesterday with the digital age taking over. And unfortunately here, the only thing that's on that cartridge that can even be preserved at this point is the Borderlands Game of the Year edition. Now, of course, this comes down to, once again, cartridge sizes, because let's say that's a 16 gigabyte cartridge and you still have to download 42 gigabytes of space for just game files to play everything else. Yeah, that would need a 64 gigabyte cartridge, and those are still crazy expensive right now. So it's obviously this weird situation where 2K was like, we want to have a box in stores, but we don't want to use a 64 gigabyte cartridge, so we'll do what we've seen a lot of publishers do, split the game up, make you download part of it, and it's frustrating, yes, but keep in mind, even if you buy it physically, you're going to need still a pretty sizable amount of free space on your SD card to get everything. And in our last bit of news, I want to talk a little bit about something that I hope becomes a reality with the PlayStation 5, and that is the idea of backwards compatibility, but improved experiences through backwards compatibility. This is a tweet here that was put out by Lance McDonald, who says that they have now had Bloodborne running with a 60 frames per second frame cap, no VSync, of course, lots of screen tearing, all of that, but with proper frame timing and game logic timing. So this right here is running, as they say, on a base PlayStation 4. They're going to work to get an actual FPS counter on that and all that, but they were working to modify and patch Bloodborne because people really like Bloodborne, and it's on the PS4, and it was at like 30 frames per second, and it kind of felt a bit off at times. And of course, people were hoping that the PS4 Pro shows up, boost mode gets enabled, and boom, we get a 60 frames per second Bloodborne. Not the case. So the hope now is that Bloodborne will qualify for a patch through backwards compatibility for the PlayStation 5. The problem we ran into here when I initially saw the original tweet was that the game logic appeared to be tied to the frames per second. So like if you increase it to 60, everything went at like 2 times speed. So it was like running around really fast. It was hard to time things, but they managed to fix that, which gives me massive amounts of hope that something like Bloodborne will be able to run on the PS5 at 60 frames per second, 4K maybe, and just be a really, really good experience, because there are a lot of PS4 games that could definitely use that treatment, and it's exciting stuff. But we're gonna have to find out, I guess, whenever Sony wants to tell us about the PS5 and the backwards compatibility, because they even had a hard enough time telling us about it in general when Mark Cerny was talking at the podium during his lecture. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from Christoph saying, I can't wait to hear EA try to explain to its investors the decision to support the 1 million user Stadia platform over their 50 million plus Switch user base. They're a joke. So EA has heard it from their investors when the Switch was at like 20 million, right? 25, 30 million. Now it's probably going to get some numbers that put it closer to 60 million. They'll still hear about it from their investors, but the way they'll explain Stadia is that they want to dive into game streaming because it is going to become such a popular thing in the future. So they're going to sell the idea of it in the future to their investors. That's how they'll kind of work around and explain why they have so much Stadia support. And I'm sure they got a check from Google as well. Believe that one, definitely. But I think they still will do something with the Switch, but it has to be more than Burnout at $50. I'm sorry, it does. But most likely they could even use that and say, well, we tried. We gave them Burnout at $50 and no one really bought it. So I guess they don't want anything else that we have, right? I mean, Mass Effect Trilogy. Who wants that? Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the new update for the Switch, if it fixed your controller for you, let me know down below. And if you're excited for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, what do you hope to see from this one that is seemingly Viking themed? And if you enjoyed Odyssey, what would you like to see them build on? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.